something bad is going to happen. And you feel it in your body. I was reading this morning, and I realized that there was somebody who predicted September 11th. I don't know how he knew it. I believe in his body, in his blood, something was telling him that something is going to happen to this country. And the guy predicted it, even though he died when the building collapsed. He died. You see, generation after generation, we have individuals, people, men and women, whose memory still honors today. The atrocity and the evil they did still honors, even though they have died. We still have the nightmare. We still have something still stick in our bodies as to what they did. For example, Saddam. Saddam Hussein killed over 2 million of his people, and sometime during the execution, he will video it, and at home he watch in amusement. Osama bin Laden, we are told, the founder of the terrorist group Al-Qaeda, who was responsible for over 3,000 people who died and over 6,000 were wounded. That man died, but his memory still comes to haunt us. We also think of a man called Nero. Nero was the cruel leader during the New Testament time. The Bible says he will light Christians. He will tie Christians along the road and light them on fire. And at one time he accused the Christians for burning Rome, the city of Rome, and he was the one who did it. Idi Amin of Uganda, described as a very brutal dictator who will televise his execution of his own people and kill over from 300,000 people to 500 Ugandans. In that country, the name Idi Amin still brings some fever in the lives of some people. What about Adolf Hitler? Adolf Hitler was a politician in Germany. We are told he was responsible for 6,000 Jewish people that he put in a gas chamber and burned them alive. During the Second World War, we are told that he was responsible over 11 million people that died. But what about women? Beverly, described as the angel of death, a serial killer in Britain, was a nurse in the hospital working with little babies and killed a lot of babies through injection. And when he injects and the child doesn't die, she will suffocate them to death. A woman, Mary Ann Corden, a British serial killer, married at the age 20, gave birth to about 5 children. 4 died of gastric fever and stomach problem. She killed her 3 children. She killed 5 second and third husband. She killed her friends. She killed her neighbors, and even killed her own mother. You see, as we look at this thing, church, the question that comes to mind is, how long will God tolerate evil? How long? How long will God allow wicked people to prosper? Wicked people to still stay around? You know, this is not the concern we have today. This has been the concern of God's people. The prophet Habakkuk. Habakkuk was called by God, and he wrestled with the question, why do wicked people prosper? Habakkuk was called by God. He knew it was his divine calling to command his people to repent. But the more he preached, the more people didn't even want to listen. And Habakkuk was wondering, God, how? Why do you allow wicked people to prosper? You see, long before Hitler tried to eliminate the Jewish people, there had been a man called Haman. You know, I asked my daughter to make some pictures here. I don't know whether you will see it very well. You know, in the story, in what we have been learning, this is the story, the picture of Mordecai. Mordecai was the uncle of Esther. You see, Esther, when Esther was born, her parent died. And Mordecai was the one that raised Esther. And he raised Esther in a foreign country. So here on this side is Haman, the man we will hear much about today. So in chapter 1, as we heard last time, the king had thrown a wonderful party that took over 180 days. At the end of that party, the king again threw another party for the civilians, 7 days. And it was at the end of that party, he wanted the queen to come and show her beauty. Everyone was drunk. The king commanded that people should drink as much as they like. And King Vesta refused to come. And the king consulted his cabinet. What should I do with the queen? And the cabinet told the king that Queen Vesta should be banished from the presence of the king. Because what she had done will make other women in the kingdom to disobey their husbands. A drunken king decided to divorce his wife, Vesta. And so in chapter 2, now a new queen is being looked for. The Bible tells us that King Xerxes ruled a very vast province from India to Ethiopia. So his servants suggested that he should bring virgins from these provinces. And then a new queen will be selected. Then Mordecai, as we know, encouraged Esther to join the group. They will nourish these girls for a whole year. Give them food, give them all type of beauty. And finally, when Esther appeared before the king, she was chosen as the queen. Esther now is a queen. Remember when Esther went to the palace, Mordecai told Esther never to disclose her identity. No one knew that Esther was a Jew. And now Esther had replaced the queen in the city of Persia. That's the summary. We now see Esther in the palace. Now chapter 3 comes and something happened. And something happened. The Bible says that before we get to that, you look at chapter 2, verse 21. So during the time Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's officials, were guarding the doorway, became angry and conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. But Mordecai found out about the plot and told Queen Esther, who in turn reported to the king and gave credit to Mordecai. And when the report was investigated and found to be true, the two officials were hung on the gallows. All this was recorded in the book of Anon in the presence of the king. You know, when they build the palace at that time, they will allow a corridor like this. And when strangers come, they sit on this side, they sit on this side, and there'll be a gate. You can in turn walk in, and they give you a seat. And you sit until the king calls you. So Mordecai had a job sitting at the gate. And all of a sudden he had two people trying to plan a coup to assassinate the king. And Mordecai told Esther, who told the king, and the two people were killed. Mordecai's name was just put in the annual record of the king. Nothing happened. Church, look at chapter 3. From verse 1 to 6, we see a determined stand of faith by Mordecai. The Bible says King Xerxes honored Haman, the son of Hamata, the Gigite, elevated him and giving him a seat of honor higher than that of all the nobles. All the royal officials at the king's gate kneel and bow down and pay Mordecai homage, for the king had commanded this concerning him. But Mordecai would not kneel down to pay homage. Then the royal official at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" Day after day they spoke to him, but he refused to comply. Therefore, they told Mordecai about it. Haman about it, to see what Mordecai's behavior would be tolerated. For he had told them he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel and bow and pay him homage, he was enraged. Yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jews throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. Church, look at what is happening in chapter 3. The king picked up Haman and honored him without explanation. We really don't know what Haman did. Maybe was a man with sweet talk or popular in the palace or whatever. But the king picked him up and just honored him. Then Haman, but Mordecai, who had saved the life of the king, was not honored. You see, what would Mordecai have done? Would he have just heard that the plot, they were plotting to kill the king and remain quiet? Can somebody read Jeremiah 29 verse 7? Jeremiah 29 verse 7. And see what God told the children of Israel when they were going to this foreign land. Remember, God was the one who took them there. And God gave them instruction on how to live. Jeremiah 29 verse 7. Can somebody read?
Also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper.
That was what God said. As you are going to Persia, you will live there for 70 years. Seek the peace of that place. Be peaceful. Seek their progress. Because if that country progress, you will progress. How many international people are causing trouble in America? When you were coming to this land, God had told you to seek the peace of America. If America prosper, you will prosper. So Mordecai knew that he was a foreign land, not only to save the city of Persia, he was also there to serve God. So when he realized something was happening, he told the king, he told Esther. You see, two people, one did a good job and his name was written in the book. One did not do anything and was promoted. What will we say about that? Perhaps we can say there was favoritism or injustice. Because in our mind, we would have loved to see Mordecai being honored and promoted, not Haman. Not Haman. You see, sometime today you can get a job only when people know you. Sometimes you can work in a company for years and years and you have no promotion. And somebody who has come yesterday may be promoted. Church, you see, when things happen like this, we can begin to ask God, where are you? Why do the wicked prosper? Jeremiah chapter 12 verse 1 to 4 also asks that question. Can somebody read that? Jeremiah chapter 12 verse 1 to 4. Come on, church. Jeremiah chapter 12 verse 1 to 4.
You are always righteous, O Lord. When I bring a case before you, yet I will speak with you about your justice. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why do all the faithless live at ease? You have planted them, and they have taken root. They grow and bear fruit. You are always on their lips, but far from their hearts. Yet you know me, O Lord. You see me and test my thoughts about you. Drag them off like sheep to be butchered. Set them apart for the day of slaughter. How long will the land lie parched, and the grass in every field be withered? Because those who live in it are wicked. The animals and birds have perished. Moreover, the people are saying, he will not see what happens to us.
You see, Jeremiah was wondering also in his time, why, God, why do the wicked have it easy? There are people who don't care about the church. There are people who don't pray. There are people who spend their time planning evil. But they live in good homes, they have good jobs. You know, you look at them, you begin to wonder, God, why do the wicked prosper? You know, Mordecai must have been asking, God, see, I told the truth. To save this man, I'm not promoted. But here is someone who had done nothing, who is a hater of the Jewish people. He had a position. You see, church, is hard for us to live in a secular society today where there is so much corruption. Yet we find those who are corrupt and nothing is happening. But God, remember, church, that God delayed to honor Mordecai because God was saving Mordecai and Esther to bless the entire Jewish nation. You see, God is always working at the background. Whether you are promoted or not, whether somebody recognizes you or not, God is working at the background. Mordecai and Esther were both living examples of faith. They were living by faith. They were not mad that the king had not promoted him. Look at what the Bible described Haman as a Gigite. You know what the Gigites were? They were the descendants of the Amorites. These were the people who didn't want the Jews to go to Canaan. When God told Moses to lead the children of Israel from Egypt to Canaan, the Amalekites stood on the way. They wanted to prevent Israel from going to Canaan. And here is the descendant of the Amalekite, Haman. You see, God told Samuel that King Saul should eliminate, kill everyone of the Amorites. We see that in 1 Samuel chapter 15. Destroy that nation that was standing on my way to lead my people to Canaan. Guess what? Saul went and did his halfway. And when Samuel came and had cows and sheep mourning and crying at the background, he asked Saul, what happened to you? Say, I went there and I did the job. I said, but what do I hear over there? God told you to finish everything. Kill everybody. Kill the king. Kill all the cattle. Everything. But what do I hear there? And you know what Saul said? I brought some of the fine animals so that I can make sacrifice. And Samuel said, because you have not done what God had said, the kingdom had been taken away from you. And when Samuel was about to leave, Saul held his robe and it tore. Samuel said, just as my robe has torn, God has torn the kingdom from you. And now 400 years later, now he's coming back to haunt the children of Israel. Here is Haman. Here is Mordecai representing the Jews, and Haman representing the Amorite. They are clashing. See, when God told you to do something, do it. Don't leave it until tomorrow, because it's going to come back. If it doesn't come back to you, it will come back to your children. So, the king gave his ring. The king honored Haman and told everybody to honor him, and Mordecai refused. Why did Mordecai refuse to bow? There are several reasons. You see, bowing to people at that time was not wrong. We can see how the brothers of Joseph bowed before Joseph. When they saw him as prime minister, they bowed before Joseph. We can also see how Abigail, when Abigail met David, what did she do? She bowed before David. And we can also see how the sons of Jonathan, bowed before David. Bowing before people was not a problem. But here Mordecai, Mordecai did not want to bow before Haman, because Haman was posing like a god. And his conscience as a Jew will not bow before people that is trying to take a place of God. Secondly, the Amalekite, who stood on the way of God's people, who were haters of the Jewish people. If you hate the Jewish people, you hate God. If you hated the people of God, you are hating God himself. How will Mordecai see himself bowing before somebody who hates God's people? And Mordecai refused to bow. You see, where is Mordecai sitting? At the gate of the king. You know what the message he was sending? He was saying that God is not only the God of Israel back at home, he is also the God of Israel elsewhere. Church, when you come to church, God is not God when you are in church. God is God wherever you are. Whether in your office, whether in the car, whether in the shopping center, you still stand for your God. You still stand for your God. Some of the kings, someone asked Mordecai, why don't you bow? Why don't you pay homage? And when Haman saw, the Bible says Haman was mad. Haman was outraged. He was angry. And sometimes I wonder how evil come to our mind. Have you ever thought about that? You are just walking like this, having your own business, and all of a sudden something took up your mind that is really evil. So Haman thought within himself, no. I'm not going to punish this man alone. I'm going to destroy all his people. Okay? Story is told of a farmer who had a religious thing. And every Sunday he will go to his farm, and he's walking his farm, and shaking his fist upon the Christians who were going to church to worship, cursing them up. Guess what? At the end of that harvest, he had a good harvest. His crops did very well, even though he was cursing anybody going to church. Even though he didn't like the things of God. This is what he wrote, I quote. In a paper, he wrote something in an advertisement, local paper, to belittle the Christians and their faith in God. He wrote, I quote, faith in God must not mean much if someone like me prosper. See, faith in God doesn't mean anything if somebody like me who don't care about God, I prosper. What was the Christian response? The next issues of the paper, the Christian respond very, very quietly, very simply with these words, I quote, God doesn't always settle his account in October. Okay? If you think October have come and you had a good service, God doesn't necessarily settle his account in October. Why? Because he's coming. Look at what happened next. We see the deceitful, wicked presentation of Haman. Somebody read verse 7 to 8. I mean verse 7 to 11. Esther chapter 3, verse 7 to 11, please. Come on.
In the 12th year of King Xerxes, in the first month, the month of Nisan, they cast the pur, that is the lot, in the presence of Haman to select a day and month. And the lot fell on the 12th month, the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, there is a certain people dispersed and scattered among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom, whose customs are different from those of all the other people, and who do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them. And I will put 10,000 talents of silver into the royal treasury for the men who carry out this business. So the king took his signet ring from his finger and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. Keep the money, the king said to Haman, and do with the people as you please.
Now Haman conceived an idea. Hey, I'm not going to kill Mordecai alone. I'm going to kill the entire Jewish people. He planned the issue to kill all the Jews. And say the month of Adar, which in the Jewish calendar falls between February and March. And Haman cast lots. You know, casting lots at that time was to decide something. You remember when Jonah was in the sea, they cast a lot. Okay? So Haman conceived the evil plan. And the first step was to get the king on his side. You know, sometimes when you are planning evil, you want somebody to support you. You want somebody to stand and agree with you. So Haman went to the king. He went to the king and quoted his words. Inside was wickedness. Inside was evil. But he talked in such a way that the king could not know that this man was planning danger. I wonder how Cain thought about killing his brother. They were the only two boys in the world. He had no gun. He had no other boys somewhere. But that thought of killing his brother came to his mind. And Abel did not even know. He told Abel, let's go to the farm. And all the time they went to the farm. All the time they went together as brothers. But that day, Abel did not know what was going to be his last. People today, Islamic terrorists, had the goal of killing people. They had the goal of killing people. We just heard that somebody drove a car on a bridge there in England. I've never been in England. I just passed through England. I've never walked on the street there. I don't know how the bridge is. He drove the bridge there and killing people. You know, people will go to the shop and buy knives to kill people. People will use their money. Instead of doing good, they buy bomb materials to bomb people and kill people. So this man devised a wicked plan. Went to the king. He said, there are people who are scattered in your kingdom. But yet their conduct, yet their laws are different. Hallelujah. I have congratulated the Jews. Even though they were scattered in a pagan land, they still remember their God. Church, we have been in America. Some of us come from churches, from Christian homes, but you know what? We have forgotten our God. We have forgotten the teaching we had when we were growing up. Sometimes when you travel home now, they don't know who you are. You don't even pray before you eat. You don't even care about the Christian stuff. But no, with the Jews. No, the Jews. They scattered all over Persia, but they remember their God. And Haman said, I am going to give 10,000 talents to the people who will carry the execution of God's people. How much was that? 2.5 billion in American money. I'm going to put in the treasury, and they can get money from there and carry out the business. Without questioning, the king accepted. What type of foolish king is that? You know, remember at first they had lied to him and he divorced his wife. But now another servant has come, Haman has come again, and he had lied to the king. Haman and the king, unfortunately, did not know that Esther, who was his queen, was a Jew. You see, church, that is why sometimes it's not good to expose your secret. There are times that you can speak. There are times you need to keep your words to yourself. See, when this girl was going to become queen, Mordecai advised her, when you go, don't let anybody know you are a Jew. Keep it to yourself. And God was working after that. God was going to walk through that to save the entire nation. And God put Esther there just like he put Joseph to save the world. Okay? This is the problem of wicked people when they take decision without consulting God. The king decided to take a decision to listen to Haman without even making a prayer, without even asking somebody, a prophet of God, to tell him what was the mind of God in this man. Story is told of somebody who built a jail. He got money from the government and built a jail. In the course of building, he embezzled the money. He embezzled part of the money, and he was charged and sent to the very jail that he built. Could you imagine that? Now Mordecai, Haman is doing something that is going to come back to him. He's going to dig a bell and dig a hole that he himself will be hung upon. Church, the last thing we see from verse 12 to 15, the Bible said the decree was written and the stamp of the king was put on it, and it was that the men and women and children will be butchered one day. One day. Imagine. Imagine the fear. Imagine the anxiety. You know, even here in America, when you hear that the immigrations are after you, how do you feel? You go, you are going, you are looking behind. You are going, you are looking behind. You come to a stop sign, you are hot cut. Sometimes you can see red light somewhere, you don't think that they are following you. But here was a decree all over the world at that time that this king was over, that the Jewish people will be butchered. Their children, what they have worked for, their houses, their farms, all that they had will be taken. The Bible says in verse 15, look at the funny thing here. Verse 15. Spurred by the king's command, the carrier went out and the edict was issued in the citadel of Susan. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susan was bewildered. They were drinking their wine, but the city was in trouble. Can you imagine that? Fear captured the families. There would have been a cry, God, where are you? God, why bring us to America? See where I am today. You see, church, let me summarize this. This is what we can learn. God has an awesome plan for every one of us, even though things may seem dark, even though we may not understand. Therefore, we have to be patient, waiting for God's timing. Okay? We must persevere and live by faith, even though things may seem like they may not happen. Number 3, we must believe God is working His perfect will, just like He worked for Mordecai and Esther. You see, Esther never dreamed that he would be the wife of a Persian king. He thought that he will be a local woman married to a Jew man somewhere and raising her children. But yet, even though it was risky and uncertain and dangerous, God placed her there. See that? She became the queen of Asia by the plan of God. And so he said, even though God had a plan for every one of us, you know what? Satan wants to sabotage it. There is somebody who doesn't want God's plan in your life to happen. See? The devil is not impersonal, like a stone. He has become all that God is not. His purpose in creation is to destroy God and his people. But Satan knows he cannot destroy God. What his aim is to destroy us, to take us into the dark hole where he belongs. Okay? Dr. David Jeremiah, my favorite preacher, was preaching and he said something. That there was a couple that one of them had cancer. And he went there with his deacons to pray for this man, that God will heal. And so it happened that at the long run they took the wife to the hospice. And they went there finally to pray for the wife. The wife was sleeping. And the husband said, Pastor, I hate cancer. But you know what? I love what cancer has done for my family. Because cancer has brought my family together. You see, church, when sometimes trouble comes, it brings people together. That's God's goal. The devil's goal is that when trouble comes, everyone goes his way. Yeah, that's what Satan wants to achieve. But the goal of God is when trouble comes to the Jewish people, to every one of us, it brings you closer to God. Even though the devil thinks you'll be mad and running your own way and don't care about this one, I don't care about this one, but God instead is walking against the ways of the devil. Finally, a man was cutting a tree and it fell. The tree fell and broke his rib, punctured his lungs, crushed his vertebrae at his back, and he was in pain. And the friends came to see him in the hospital, and the man asked one question. Where was God? Where was God when this thing was coming down on me? Why did God not turn it this way or turn it this way? And his friend said, you know what? The fact that you are still alive here shows that God was right there. Amen. So, church, God will be with you. God will be with you if you can only give your heart to him. He was with Mordecai and he was with Esther. You see, look at this chapter now. Where do we go from here? That's how it is so exciting. Because the next chapter, we are going to see what Esther is now going to come in the scene, and something will be in the making. God will begin to reveal his will and his plan of putting Esther in the palace. See, church, when there is trouble, God is about to reveal his plan. When there is pain, God is about to reveal his will. Then is he going to use you? Will you stay until that will, the purpose of God come through you?
Yes, Lord.
Because as Mordecai will tell Esther what we are going to hear next week, Esther, if you don't act, God will save his people in another way. But your family will perish. Perhaps you were sent to that palace for such a time like this. Maybe you were sent to America for such a time. So live by faith. Don't quit yet. Stand your ground as Mordecai stood. No matter the pressure you get from people around, until you hear and see the signal from God, don't move. Because the moment God strikes, you will know. And you will walk through that gate in victory.